not InDesign. We don't need to go through that process again. In Adobe. Right here, I used a letter recently. Yours might be there, but if not, you can go to Print and Letter, Inches, and we're going to create in portrait mode, which means that it's going to be long, not horizontal, the paper. Very exciting. Is everyone else's this slow? Nope. So slow. There we go. Ta-da! A blank artboard. So I don't know if you have what you have open, but what you're going to need for this, we're going to get ready. You can go to Window, Type, Character, and we need Paragraph. But I'm going to go ahead and take this Paragraph tab and just pull it out of that window so that I can have both of these open. I'm also going to click on the little hamburger menu. It should say the options are already there. So if you have hide options, you're good. If it says show options, click that. And I have all my options happening here. We are going to work solely with these two tools. Well, working with the type tool. I should say these two, like formatting tools. So I can take the type and click and let go, but that's not what I want to do for this assignment. And almost everything that you are going to be working on a lot in this class, that is my preferred method of like clicking and let go and typing for the type. But in this particular case, we are going to put everything in a text box. So you're going to click and drag. And there's text that already goes into there. Then you'll need to pick a quote. You don't necessarily need the quote marks. It's up to you. I'm going to copy that. I did a Command C. This is already highlighted. I do a Command V, and it's pasted. So what we're looking for is, let's look here. I'll look up a quote typography poster. So you'll find images of quotes that are kind of like this, where everything creates that rectangle. There's space that fills up mostly a rectangle. This is probably the best way. I would want you to have it go all the way out. There are a little few decorations you could add to sometimes fill the space. I don't need the little heads. I'm just working on typography now. No artwork per se, but kind of this feel and this idea. The closer you can get to a rectangle, for me, the better, because it'll take some fine tuning. Let's also go to some other rules. You can have 2 to 3 different fonts. I want you to have at least 2 or 3 fonts. So you can't just have one font for the whole thing. And I want like different typefaces. So you can't just have Arial and then Arial bold. I want you to work with 3 different typefaces. You can have more if there's purpose behind it. So you have to sell me that idea if there's a reason for you to have more than 3 typefaces. And you're going to submit a PDF and an AI file for this assignment. The PDF is so I can view it quickly. The AI file is because I need to know, because you're not going to be creating outlines for anything, I need to know that you formatted all of this text in this one text box. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. It also helps if you don't, a trick is to not have the same amount of words each line. So it helps to have a little bit of variety. And it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out where you want to put your returns in. So I'm just kind of formatting some text along the way. Here's a good trick also to know. Anytime that you are taking text and splitting up the lines and you're doing a return, I will get my cursor so it's flashing where I want to return. So what a lot of people do is they'll go here and they'll hit return. And then if they go to center the text, it's centering this little space that's right here as well, and it's always just a bit off. So every time you hit return and you need to go down a line, you want to delete that space first and then go under. And then you can kind of, you know, I'm highlighting right here to double check if I did that on all those areas. Now this might not stay this in, you know, where these returns go. Things might change, but this is a good starting point for me. And then you're going to just start adjusting. So maybe I create this, I'm gonna pick this typeface here, and I'm gonna adjust to make my type bigger. I have to adjust out of this panel. I cannot click and drag because we're in the type box. So everything that you're gonna have to create is gonna happen here. And maybe I wanna make this a script. And sometimes that will be too low or too high. So you can look here, this can raise the text up, this can raise or put it back down, because depending on the typeface or the font that you're using, it doesn't always sit on that nice line. So to give yourself a guide in your properties panel, it's not, let's see, if I click off, my properties panel, there it is, the ruler. I'm going to click on my ruler, and you can drag, you can click in the ruler and drag out guidelines. If you don't have a ruler, you can't click the guidelines out. I'm not sure why. So you might want to use some guidelines to make sure if you're moving type up and down that you can see that it's straight. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to eyedrop. So now if I can't remember what this type was, I can eyedrop this type here to get that same typeface. I can make this a little bit smaller. Maybe I'm going to change this to my third typeface. And now I need to make all of this smaller so it fits. And now I have, this didn't go all the way to the edge. So if you don't go all the way to the edge, it might just be easier because it gives you a guide. Staying in that, you know, those straight edge, that rectangle, that type box is good. And it's also good, you'll notice I left myself a margin. And what a margin is I have, view, fit all in window. I have space, like a border around. And I haven't been super thoughtful about the type that I'm choosing this right now. I'm just doing it quick for a demo. So I want you to be thoughtful about, you know, the typefaces that you are choosing. Oops, that was a mistake. Let's go here. So you notice things will get bigger and smaller. Other things that you can play around with, let me just get this a little bit smaller. So that's showing you to change the size, changing the typeface. You can use the eyedropper tool, but maybe this word feels a little bit close. So I can highlight this word, and if I highlight over here, tracking happens. So I can click on this and it defaults numbers if I want to spread some words apart. So maybe I have the word design really big and I just have it tracked a little bit bigger so it fills up that whole space. Maybe you want to pull out some of those keywords or things. How are you going to make things stand out? How are you going to make things more important, less important? I can put that at 200. You can always change your cases, uppercase, lowercase, to make things happen for you. If there are just on like that kerning game, if there is a big word that stands out, that the typefaces that I chose seem to be kerned pretty well. So I'm going to just choose something right here to see if I can find something that maybe needs to be kerned a little bit better. Not that. And you can download types from Google Fonts or Font Squirrel or some of the other places. But if you want to change the individual spacing between the letters, why is it not giving me my minus sign? Something happened. There we go. So the way to change, so this right here, that tracking only changes all of the letters at once. If you need to make fine detail adjustments, you have to highlight the cursor in between the letter that you want to change. And you have to do two things. You have to hold down Option. So I just hold down Option and I keep it held. And then I take an arrow and I can move things the way that I want to move them. I let go, I just arrow over. And you can hand kern the letters that way. If you choose a good typeface, not a lot of kerning is involved. Some words like wave and other words that have like 8 angles and just bigger spaces, even with a good typeface, you do have to visually kern them. So that's usually what I do at the very end. So I kind of set everything and then I look at it with a good design eye and I look at those small letters that need to be adjusted. When you are working with different types in a setting like this also, sometimes you want to change how far apart the line spacing is. And adding in different types on the same line is sometimes hard. Usually if I were to create this poster and I'm just designing it without being in a typography class, this is going to be its own word, this is going to be its own word, this is going to be its own word, and I'm going to have all these type boxes that I'm going to be able to move around and adjust. But so it's easier to get the lines how you want it. But in this case, because I want you to be able to, it's called setting the type using this type box, or the text box, you might need to move, for example, this line is really far down because this, you want that Pac-Man effect. You want all those lines to feel like they're the same space. So just like that Pac-Man game where you're going and eating, you want to be able to have that all the same space. So if I need to change the height of a line, I have to go from the bottom line and move it up. So you don't want to select both lines that you're trying to adjust. You just select one of the lines, and here is where you can arrow this up and down. When you have a lot of paragraph text, this is, you can change your line spacing easily in this window as for all of the lines, but here we can make some slight adjustments. Again, this T and T here, those don't ever change. Those are always going to stay the same. We don't necessarily need to rotate anything. Down here you have underlining or striking through, unless you have a good reason to use that. Not necessarily necessary. Maybe you want to put this piece in the center, so let's talk about justification. You can justify to the center, but it moved all of it. And I think because it was one line, so that's where you have to do the return to happen. So if piece moved down to the next line because it was just too big and you're trying to center something and it's all going, you just have to put a return through the two. So this might be a place where maybe you add, a simple line because you really wanted that design to stand out. Oops, let's get a line. But I don't want you to focus too much on decoration. But if this were the case, I need it to feel like it's making that rectangle. And for some reason, if you wanted the word wow to stand out, so you just had wow really big, but it was empty on both sides, you could put a slight design element in between there. Other things that are happening here that you can play around with paragraphs that might help with slight adjustments depending on how you can't line this all the way up. Like it's not all the way to the edge, just the way the letters are. You can move, if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. The left indent a little bit more, the right indent, because you don't have that those align tools. So you're not having all separate text boxes where you can align, you know, using the align tools that you're used to. What I am talking about are these. Because it's all in one box. You can only, you know, kind of align different boxes of things or shapes, but you can't align here. So this is where you would make those fine adjustments here. Hyphenating. This is where you can turn the automatic hyphens on and off. If you get a long word that's stuck and you like justify something and the edge would have all hyphens. Here you probably wouldn't have it. This is more for long paragraph text. And then just play around with all these things and see what they do. So the goal is to take the one quote, have the big text box, and the reason that I say a square or a rectangle is the text might be small enough that it ends up ending here, making a square, or it might be long enough making a rectangle, but you do have to fit it on a letter size artboard. You're going to save it as a PDF and an AI file. An AI file is, actually just save it as a PDF because I can open up your AI file in PDF. I don't know why I didn't realize that. So anything that is a PDF, you can drag on top of the Illustrator icon and open it. What I don't want you to do is you cannot create outlines in this particular assignment. Almost every other assignment I will have you at some point create outlines, but not this one because I need to check that everything, if I move your stuff, it's not moving together because it's grouped. It's moving together because it's in the one type box. Are there any questions? No? Cool.
Do you mind